everyone, my name is Phoenix, otherwise known as the Legend of Fifth, and today I'm bringing you this video in honour of Time to Talk Day. So Time to Talk Day, in case you don't know, is an annual celebration, or not really a celebration, but it's an annual kind of charity event set up by the Time to Talk, Time for Change charity. And the aim is simple. It's basically to encourage people to have a small conversation about mental health. So that could be talking to somebody about how you've been feeling, or it could also be catching up with somebody and asking how they've been doing. And I used to be quite involved with this when I was at university a few years ago. When I was at university, I used to volunteer with the Student Mind Society, and I was on the committee. And yeah, it was always something that we made sure, you know, we put out an event for, because it's such an important topic, and you know, it's always good to get people talking regardless of what kind of, you know, experiences they've been going through. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about my mental health. I'm going to specifically be talking about how COVID has affected my mental health, because I feel like it's, you know, the big topic of the year, probably of the decade. The fact that we are currently in the midst of a COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm in the UK. We're currently in a national lockdown, and you're watching this hopefully on the 4th of Feb, Time to Talk Day, but I am actually filming this like on the 1st of February, so it's the beginning of a new month. But I also want to mention, I am actually going to be, I'm not just going to be sitting here and talking at you. I am going to be doing my makeup, because years and years ago I set up this YouTube channel with the hopes of sort of doing makeup videos, and that's what I used to do. I used to do lots of like product reviews and like openings and all sorts of random stuff. But I actually haven't made a YouTube video in a very long time. It's been well over a year for me. So this is quite nerve-wracking, but at the same time it's also quite yeah, it feels quite home, like familiar, homely familiar, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to be doing like a simple like makeup look, just to sort of keep you entertained, rather than me just sitting here like talking at you for like however long this video is going to be. Yeah, because I love makeup, and I like expressing myself through makeup, and I love the artistry of makeup, and yeah, all of that kind of stuff. So I want to kind of like bring together two things. But I also want to mention, I am thinking about making this into like a video series on my YouTube channel. I want to sort of do my makeup and then talk about something, so like a topic, so something in the news, or something I've been thinking about, or like something that's been on social media that everybody's talking about, that kind of thing. So if you have any suggestions for topics that you would like me to talk about, then please let me know. You can obviously comment on this video, but you can also DM me on my social media. I've got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and I'm also on TikTok as well. So any of those, and I'm pretty sure my username is just the Legend of Fifth for all 5 of those. There might be a couple of variations, but the Legend of Fifth is, generally speaking, the universal name for all of my social media handles. So yeah, so I'm gonna get started. So I'm gonna let you know like what kind of products I'm using and things like that as I'm going. But I'm trying to keep this quite simple, because I don't want to like, I'm terrible at multitasking. So I don't want to like get too sucked into doing something and then forgetting what I was talking about, or vice versa. So so I'm gonna start off with my primer, and this is the Anna Sui Gel Foundation Primer. Has that signature Anna Sui scent. I can't get my words out today. But yeah, so this, I mean, 2020 has just been like all over the place, and I feel like for me 2020 like definitely has been like a turnaround year. Like it has been like all sorts of stuff happened like in 2020 for me, but I'm actually like gonna be like quite crazy right now and say that actually I don't think COVID affected it that much. Like, I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but so basically I was diagnosed, I have OCD and I also have BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. A lot of people get it confused with like bipolar, so I just want to put it out there that it's not bipolar, it's borderline personality. But I was diagnosed with those like way before COVID. I was diagnosed with OCD in 2016, and then I was diagnosed with borderline, I think officially I was diagnosed in 2019, but technically the conversations had already started like the year before, so kind of like 2018. So yeah, so way before COVID, and obviously way before 2020. So these were like things that I had been dealing with like regardless, but they generally speaking get like good and then they get worse and then they get good and they get worse again. And that's mostly because I'm not in like receipt of any like treatment of any kind. And I kind of want to like talk about that on their own, like maybe in another video or something. But basically at the moment, I'm not actually receiving any treatment, which is very frustrating. I keep getting rejected pretty much every time I go and find it. And at the beginning of last year, so yeah, beginning of 2020, I actually had like a breakdown, and it resulted in me deleting all of my YouTube videos. So if you're kind of like new to this channel and you're wondering like you've only got like what, like 1 or 2 videos on there, yeah, that's because I deleted them all, and I deleted all trace of them as well. So I didn't just delete them from YouTube, I deleted them from my computer and from my external hard drive as well. So yeah, that was not good. I don't know why I did that. I'm trying to remember, but I think I was just so like out of it. I don't remember. Got signed off sick in February, I think. I was working full time at the time, and then I went back to work in March, I think, roughly. And obviously this was when COVID was like really quite bad, and obviously we then went into a national lockdown sort of towards the end of March. So I was actually classed as a key worker at that point because I was working at a call centre, and the call centre that I worked for was like a overflow call centre, and we used to take like overflow calls from like lots of different companies across the UK. But the biggest one that we took calls for was Wiltshire Farm Foods, which you may have heard of, but they are a frozen ready meal delivery service, and it's mostly used by the elderly and also the disabled community. But obviously with this lockdown, we just had like way more customers than normal. Yeah, it was really, really busy, and it was very stressful, not just because it was busy, but I mean, talking to old people and having to explain change to them is difficult anyway, and it's even more difficult when you're on the phone as well. And we were having to sort of explain to them that, you know, maybe a lot of their meals were out of stock because we had more people buying them than we thought we would. Their deliveries might take a little bit longer for the same reason. You know, the fact that we would prefer a card payment rather than a cash or check payment, and then they would start yelling at us because they thought that it was a scam, and it was just, I don't know, it was very, very difficult. Also, not to mention the fact that at the time the office was so cramped, we had no social distancing. We were literally like elbow to elbow at our desks. There was no like appropriate ventilation, no like hand washing or hand sanitizer being encouraged. People were like hot desking as well, so we weren't like allocated a desk for the day. It was sort of like, you know, every day it changed, and nobody, not everybody, but like a lot of people weren't cleaning their desks either, which was really annoying. I felt like at that point, oh my god, what have I just done to my eyebrows? I feel like at that point, like antibacterial wipes and antibacterial spray was like some kind of godsend. It was like a currency in the office. But yeah, I laugh about it, but like genuinely it was actually really frightening, like, you know. And we didn't actually know that much about COVID at that point, I suppose, like even though we were in a lockdown. Yeah, it was a bit crazy. And I don't actually know if this is the case, but I know for sure that my OCD is triggered by stress and anxiety, and I was definitely very stressed, so I do think there was like some kind of correlation between the two events. But at the same time, when I think about it, I really don't know genuinely what event, like if there was one sole event that triggered this, or if it was an accumulation of things. I don't know. But yeah, basically I was very, very ill again, and I ended up having to get signed off work around the summertime, like July. And it was very annoying because I think only like a month or two before that I was given part-time shifts, because I thought working part-time would help me, because it meant that I would have time to like rest and recuperate between my shifts, that kind of thing. But obviously, like, OCD doesn't take a day off when you have a day off, you know, like you finish work, that doesn't mean that your OCD is finished work as well. It's with you 24/7, and it's something that I deal with 24/7. It may not look like it on the outside, but I definitely am dealing with it on the inside, that kind of thing. So I felt really bad, because I was really grateful for my managers for sorting out these part-time shifts for me. And then literally only like a month or two later I had to go off sick, and I did feel really bad. You know, like, we were obviously in a national lockdown, we were in a pandemic, and as I say, it was obviously very busy. And yeah, generally speaking, I just felt really bad. But I had to kind of like separate that from my health, because obviously my health was very important to me. And even though I did feel guilty, and it was kind of like expected, it was, you know, it was something that I knew was going to happen, I would feel guilty. At the same time, it's like not my fault, you know, like, yeah, I'm not receiving any treatment. It was kind of going to be very obvious with the stress and the anxiety that I was feeling, like having no social distancing and all that kind of stuff in the office. It meant that it just built up inside me, and my OCD just became really, really hard to deal with, like really, really bad. And I want to talk about my OCD, but I think, again, I kind of don't want to take over this whole video just talking about it, so I might save it for another video. I know that kind of sounds a bit annoying, but hopefully you guys understand. But yeah, it was just very difficult, but I was in denial. I was just like, oh, I'll be back next month, and then I'll go back to the doctors, and then I'll tell them how I've been doing for that past month, and then and then I'll get signed off again, and I'll just be like, oh, okay. And it just built up, and I think I was signed off work in total for about 3 months or something like that. August, October, about 3 or 4 months I was signed off work. And obviously there were conversations going on between me and my managers about like when I was going to come back, and it was just very difficult, because when you're physically ill, 9 times out of 10 you can usually give like a ballpark estimate of when you'll be back. Like, oh, I've broken my leg, the doctor said I have to be in a cast for, I don't know, like 8 weeks, something like that. You kind of then know that after those 8 weeks you're going to have your cast off, and you're probably going to feel able to, you know, go back to your normal activities. But with mental health it's very difficult, because you can't always be sure that you're going to have a good period and that it's going to last a long time. And because I'm not in receipt of any treatment, if I do go through a rough patch, which is inevitable, I don't have the coping mechanisms or the knowledge to try and bring me back up to a good place. My coping mechanisms are not very healthy. So obviously that's where I need like a clinical input, if you will, to help, you know, kind of get rid of those unhealthy coping mechanisms and learn new healthy ones. And this is something that I'm trying to do like in my own time. Like, I have a lot of time to myself now, and it is something that I am constantly researching, but it is very difficult to like apply to your daily life when you don't have that clinical input, and this is what I'm desperate for. But again, another story. Let's go on to eyes, by the way. Oh, I've got to say, I used the Rimmel Brow This Way brow gel. It's a little bit dark for my liking. It's in the shade medium brown. I think I need like a lighter brown. But yeah, I don't really do too much to my brows nowadays. I'm kind of growing them out, so I don't really like want to go crazy because it will probably accentuate the fact that I'm growing them out. So that's why I usually just use like a bit of brow gel or maybe like some pencil or something. Depends on how I'm feeling. Anyway, and for eyeshadow, I'm going to be using this. This is the Tarte, I think Born This Way. Is it Born This Way? I can't remember what it's called now. It's like a set. It was like a special birthday set. So you get loads of eye colours in the middle, and then you've got like a couple of like highlighters, blushes and bronzer, and then on the other side there's like a mascara, an eyeliner, and then I think a lipstick, but obviously I've taken them out. So but anyway, I'm going to be using the eye colours from this palette. So yeah, so I was signed off work, I was in denial, and I kept having conversations with my managers about whether I was going to be coming back to work and when and all that kind of stuff. And because I was in denial, I was like very confident that I would be back like very soon. But then my work sort of they requested that I do an occupational health assessment, which I was actually really intrigued to do, because whilst I was in denial, I was sort of having these like quite brief conversations with myself about the future of my employment at that workplace, at that call centre. So I was actually really intrigued, and I was definitely keen to do the occupational health assessment. And a really nice person, a really nice nurse, phoned me up for the assessment. It was done over the phone, of course. And she said, I think she used to work on an OCD ward, like in a mental hospital, or like or if she like used to just work with a lot of patients who had OCD. I can't remember what she said now, but I know she definitely had a lot of like knowledge and experience of it, which was great, because it was just really nice to talk to somebody who knew what I was talking about. Even though she obviously didn't have OCD herself, it was just really nice to like be able to sort of like just talk about the most random things that I don't think anybody else would understand, but she like completely understood. It was very nice, so that was very helpful in itself. And yeah, we spoke for quite a long time, and she basically, in her report, she said that it's obvious that I want to work, like I have a willingness to work. I don't have any physical or like severe cognitive disabilities that would stop me from working. I've had a very successful working career, if you will. Like I've always had this ethic in me to work. Like I had a paper round when I think I was about 13 or 14. I had a paper round. Stopped doing that when I was 16. I started working in a cafe. I continued that into like my first or second year at uni, and then I did take a year out of working, but I was at uni, so I suppose you could argue that, you know, I was studying. It wasn't like I was doing nothing. And then I started working at Sainsbury's, continued that even when I dropped out of uni. I was still working at Sainsbury's, and then when I left Sainsbury's I only had 2 days off, and then I started working at the call centre again. So I've basically been working for like ever since I was about 13 years old, so about 12 years, like 12 or 13 years that I've been working. So and I did tell this nurse this, and so she was really like supportive of the fact that, you know, I do want to. And but the issue is obviously the fact that I do have these mental health illnesses, you know, OCD and borderline, but I'm not receiving any treatment for them. And so basically, long story short, her report said that, you know, I do have a willingness to work, I want to work, that kind of thing, but pending treatment. So I guess it was then down to my managers, like the ball was kind of in their court of what they wanted to do with me, because I don't think they could outright sack me, because I think that would be like an unfair dismissal, but I think they were obviously trying to make it into like a medical thing, which I didn't mind. You know, I kind of knew it was coming. After the occupational health assessment, I kind of started getting a little bit more serious with my thoughts and conversations with myself about what the hell I was going to do in regards to my job. And I eventually decided to leave. I voluntarily unemployed myself. And I officially left work on the 27th of November 2020, so I've only been unemployed for about 2 months, but obviously I've been signed off sick for about 3 or 4 months before that. But yeah, and it's very weird. It's very weird having to adjust to it. I don't like it, if I'm honest. I don't. I like it and I don't like it. It's very difficult, and I also, like, yeah, I'm still adjusting. You know, you could argue it's been about 6 months that I've been off work, if you include the time that I was signed off. But I'm still adjusting to it. It's very strange. But I know it's the best thing for me at the same time. Like, I keep saying to myself, oh, it's okay, like, I can just, like, find a new job or something. And then literally, like, the week after, I'll be having, like, a really bad week, and it will like, kind of confirm to me that I'm not well, like, I'm not reliable enough, you know, because I do have these very up and down, you know, moments. What am I doing with my eyes? Actually, I have no idea what I'm doing with my eyes. I've also just grabbed a load of like a handful of brushes, and I actually don't know if any of them are going to be any use to me. How silly. I know. Okay, let's carry on. So yeah, a bit weird. And I think the whole, like, point of Time to Talk is also not just to encourage people to open up about their mental health experiences and whatever, but it's also to break down the stigma surrounding mental health, because there is a lot of stigma. Unfortunately, that's just what it's like. And you know, it's a shame. It shouldn't be like that. And obviously, the more people talk about it, the more people, like, open up about it, and aren't judged for it, the less shame there is around it, and that therefore breaks the stigma. But I think one of the things that hinders that is people's knowledge and understanding of mental health, and that's okay. I feel like there are a lot of gaps in knowledge and understanding of mental health that cause people to stigmatise mental health and mental health illnesses, and they probably don't even realise it, and it's simply because they just don't have a good knowledge and understanding of it. So I'm hoping that this video kind of helps people learn more a little bit about mental health, particularly OCD and borderline, I suppose. Haven't really talked about that much. I don't really know what to say about that. It is very difficult. Yeah, there is a lot of stigma around being unemployed, though, I've discovered. I'm actually really embarrassed by it, like, having to sort of, like, tell people, oh, what have you been up to? Well, nothing, I'm unemployed. It's like, I'm really quite embarrassed by it, and I had to keep kind of reminding myself that, like, you know, I'm not unemployed because I'm lazy. I'm not unemployed because I just don't want to work. I'm not unemployed because I can't be asked. It's because I have to. Like, I'm not very well. And although that's not very obvious on the outside, it is a case when I'm on the inside, and therefore, yeah, I hate having to tell people that I'm unemployed, basically, is the bottom line of that. Like, I literally hate it. For fear of being judged. But actually, so far, a lot of people have been very nice about it. I have received a couple of, like, quite hurtful and mean comments, but on the whole, like, you know, people have been very supportive and have just been very kind about it, and I really appreciate that. But yeah, so adjusting to unemployed life is one thing, but then having to apply for benefits is another thing. Of course, I don't have an income from work, so obviously I need to apply for benefits so I can, you know, can obviously pay my rent and things like that. So I'm now on universal credit, something I've never had to do before, so the whole application was like, just, I was sort of chucked in at the deep end. But it was okay, and obviously I've been accepted for it, so now I actually do have money to pay my rent, which is good. My savings have like completely dwindled because of the 3 or 4 months that I was off work. I was obviously in receipt of sick pay, but sick pay is absolutely like disgusting amount of money. It's like so terrible. Barely covered my rent. It covered my rent and then like my phone bill, and that was it. I had nothing else, so I had to use my savings for like groceries, and I was literally, I was in survival mode for those 6 months, where I literally just bought things that I needed, and I always made sure that I bought the like cheapest version and that kind of thing. I just became very like aware of how much money I had, and like, even if I could afford it, I wouldn't buy it, just because I was really fearful of the fact, well, I don't actually need this, I just want to buy it. And you would think that, you know, oh well, that's good, you know, you're saving money, you're like looking after your savings, that kind of thing. It actually takes a really bad mental toll on you, because you just don't get any enjoyment. You're not getting any enjoyment. You're literally just at home doing nothing all day with your disturbed thought processes, because you've got these 2 mental illnesses, and you don't really get any enjoyment. Like, I can't, usually I would like, I don't go crazy, like usually I would just like buy things that I liked. Like if I saw a t-shirt that I liked, I would buy it. If there was a new lipstick that I wanted that looked nice, I would buy it. You know, like if there was a book I wanted to read, I would buy it, that kind of thing. And I couldn't do any of that, and it was actually really hard, because I just wanted to buy something nice for myself, like even just like a face mask, just to like chill out. Like, you know, I couldn't do that, because in my head it was like, would I die if I didn't buy this face mask? No, okay, well then you don't need to buy it, that kind of thing. So yeah, it was just really quite depressing for 6 months, and now I've got, you know, now I've actually come out of that, and obviously I do have a little bit of an income now. I am starting to like think about like something I could buy for myself, just as like a little treat, just to sort of like celebrate the fact that it's a new year, and I'm looking forward to the year, and I'm hoping to get some help and all that kind of thing. Like, yeah, I just don't know really. Does that make sense? Like, I hope it does. But yeah. I'm also trying to apply for PIP, which is Personal Independence Payment, and I think it replaces the old Disability Living Allowance, but you'll have to, don't quote me on that because I don't actually know 100%, but I'm pretty sure it does. But basically it's not means tested, and it's obviously for people who have like some kind of disability that's stopping them from working or living a normal daily life. So I've been currently trying to apply for that, but it hasn't gone very well. I actually first applied for it on the 31st of July. I was going to apply for it anyway, regardless of whether I was working or not. So I applied for it first on the 31st of July, and it's the 1st of February today, and it's still ongoing. Like, it's such a long process. If you are watching this video and you're thinking about going on PIP, don't think about it any longer, just get on with it, because it honestly, it's taking so long. So the sooner you get it done, hopefully the quicker, you know, it will get sorted for you. That's my advice. But it's such a degrading application. You know, you have to really like, you have to talk about what you can't do, and when you live your life every day trying to do, you know, whatever you can do, whether that's having a shower or eating 3 meals a day or going shopping or just going for a walk, you know, those are all things that I struggle with daily. So if I'm able to do those things, I obviously like feel very good about myself, and I feel accomplished. So having to sort of really think about what you can't do is just so difficult, because you're just constantly trying to focus on the things that you can do and the things that you are able to do. So it did take quite a long time for me to fill out my application, because I wanted to make sure that everything was mentioned, and that I obviously did elaborate on the things that I can't do, which turns out actually to be quite a lot of things. But yes. But anyway, I got rejected. They sent me a lovely letter, I think before Christmas. Basically they score you, so you get different categories of like things, so eating and drinking, like cooking food, that kind of thing, and they score you. I can't remember what it's out of. I think it depends on the category. Like some of them are out of 10 and some of them are out of 8, and depending on how much you get, like what points you get, depends on how much money you get and how much support you get. They gave me 0 for every category and I was like, I don't really understand how they could give me 0 on every category, because surely if someone has scored 0, then they are a normal, healthy person, that they're able to live their daily life, they're able to work, they're able to have relationships with people, that kind of thing. I was definitely not in that boat, so I was very confused as to why they would give me 0. Like, if I was genuinely like doubtful of my application, like I wouldn't have applied. Like if I thought that I didn't need any help, I wouldn't have applied. I thought it was very strange. So I had to send in an appeal, and I did that like beginning of January. So it's been around a month, I think. So fingers crossed, hopefully they get back to me soon and they tell me some good news. But yeah, it's just like, it's such a degrading application. Like, I'm really sorry if you're currently going through the PIP process, or you're thinking about it. It's just, or you know somebody who has. It's just honestly awful. And I had to have my assessment over the phone. You're meant to have like so you do like a written questionnaire thing, and then you have like an assessment, and usually it's face to face. But obviously because of COVID, I was asked to do mine over the phone. And the man I was speaking to was just so rude. Like, he kept interrupting me. I would be like talking, and I wanted to make sure that, you know, I was obviously saying all of the words that I wanted to say. Like, I wanted to make sure that everything I wanted to say had been said. So sometimes I would pause quietly to just quickly think about how I wanted to form my sentence, and then I would speak it. But he would take that as me being finished, even though it was kind of obvious that I hadn't finished my sentence. And he would just ask me a completely new question, and I was too nervous to ask him to go back to the previous question because I hadn't finished. And it was just like, he was very like speedy as well. He was just very sort of like, yes, no, like, do you do this, like, can you do this, blah 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 blah. And it was like, I'm literally like being given like no time to do like anything, you know what I mean? Like, it was literally like, it was just really awkward. Yeah, I hated it. It was, honestly, it was terrible. But I think that's probably why I was given 0, because of that telephone assessment. Like, I genuinely think that really screwed me over. Yeah, I didn't think it was very fair at all, but never mind, life goes on, I suppose. And like I say, I have sent in an appeal, so hopefully, fingers crossed, give me some good news. Well, but yeah, so, and again, there's a lot of stigma surrounding benefits as well, like having to apply for benefits and saying that you're on benefits. There's a huge amount of stigma around it as well, and it's such a shame. Honestly, it's such a shame. Like, people seem to think, you know, oh, if you're on benefits, that means that you're lazy, you probably live in a council house. Like, you know, people complain a lot about people on benefits, like, oh, I pay my taxes and they're just buying like clothes and all that kind of stuff. And that's probably like a minority, like a small amount of people probably have lied on their application. They may have exaggerated their illnesses and whatnot to get benefits. They may have become very lazy or whatever, but like 9 times out of 10, people who are on benefits genuinely need it. And it's really not nice to assume that they fall into those categories that the minority of people who are on benefits do. And yeah, it's a shame that people are being misjudged, myself included. I've been horribly misjudged because I'm on benefits now, like really, really bad. I've had really hurtful comments made because I'm on benefits, and I don't think it's fair. Obviously, like, since I've been diagnosed with OCD and borderline, I've received a lot of stigma for the two. They are two of the most stigmatized mental illnesses anyway. And I kind of feel like, you know, I can just brush it aside. Like, I can deal with that kind of stigma, but when it comes to the unemployed, like, kind of like benefit stigma, it just really, really angers me. It really upsets me. It really annoys me. It's like, I don't want to be this way forever, you know. I am trying to work on myself, and obviously I am trying to get some help and get some treatment and hopefully feel a little bit more confident about going back to work. And I've been thinking about like what kind of job I might want to do when I do feel better and all that kind of stuff. So it's not like I'm doing nothing, you know. I'm not sat here literally just doing my makeup all day, you know. I am actually like being proactive. I am making these steps. They might be small steps, but they're steps nonetheless. So for people to misjudge me and just kind of like, you know, like talk about me as if it's bad, I mean, yeah, it's just a shame really. And like I say, it's probably because of the lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. So yeah. Just wanted to pop a bit of colour on my eyelids just to kind of bring it together a little bit. But I've got loads of fallout now on my face, which isn't good when it's a shimmery eyeshadow. Ugh. Why does this one look really weird? Oh, that looks a little bit better. I like that now. So I think obviously like the whole purpose of this video was to try and like sort of open up a little bit about how my 2020 went and how COVID has affected my mental health. As I say, it hasn't affected it a massive amount. I think the only way it's affected it was because it may, like the stress surrounding the job and all that kind of stuff that I used to have may have triggered my OCD in a way that's now made me like practically like unable to work. That kind of thing. But it's also affected treatment as well, because like I say, I keep getting rejected, but there are things that I can do, like self-referrals, which I am planning on doing this month. That's what I'm going to be working on now. But obviously because of COVID, I think like face-to-face appointments aren't really being done, so they're mostly going to be over the phone or on like a video call. And I don't know like about anybody else, but I seem to work better in face-to-face environments. Like I like find it easier to like talk, and I obviously find it like just generally speaking, I just find it a lot easier in a face-to-face environment. So I am really apprehensive about you know, having this sort of like phone or video conversation, but I'm gonna give it a go anyway because I feel like it's going to be better than nothing. And if I don't like it, then I don't like it. If it doesn't work for me, then it doesn't work for me. At least I've tried. You know, you won't know until you try. So I am going to give it a go anyway. But yeah, I feel like as well, like waiting lists are probably going to be way longer as well, because everybody's been struggling with their mental health during 2020 and COVID and all that kind of stuff. And again, I think it would be really ignorant to assume that like nobody's been struggling, because I think everybody has, even in their own little way. Like everybody has mental health, and this is another thing, like people seem to think that mental health only applies to those who've been diagnosed or officially diagnosed with something, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, everybody has good days, everybody has bad days, everybody has an in-between day. We all go through events in our life that will elicit emotions that we may have never felt before. You know, we may go through an event in our life that's particularly stressful, and it starts to affect our relationships or our jobs or you know, anything else in our life. And conversely, we can go through events in our life that are really quite sad and depressing and can not just affect your sort of like outside kind of world in terms of like job and whatever, but it can also affect us on the inside. It can affect our outlook on life, and it can affect our perspective and our opinions and beliefs and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I think it's really ignorant to assume that mental health only affects those who have just been diagnosed with something, because that's not true. You could be a high-flying, really wealthy, successful CEO of a company, and you could have like really bad mental health. You could be like someone like me, well, not like me, but you know, you could be somebody who's never been diagnosed with anything before, and then suddenly gone through a bereavement of some kind, and all of a sudden you've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. You know, it is very new, and isolation and lockdown and the fear of COVID and things like that has definitely taken its toll on people. And so I really hope that you find some kind of like comfort in my words, like knowing that you're not alone, and that, you know, we will get through it. Oh, that's way too much powder. Whoops. I'll just put a little bit on just to kind of help me stay a little bit matte. I don't have particularly oily skin, but I like to put on a little bit now and then. I've not been wearing foundation recently, mostly because of the whole mask thing. Like, I just hate wearing foundation under my mask. Even though, like, I, you know, use sticky primer and all that kind of stuff to like make sure that it doesn't move, and actually 9 times out of 10 it doesn't move, I still absolutely hate it. It's just like, ooh, it just makes you feel really uncomfortable for some reason. So I haven't really been wearing it. But yeah. Oh my god. Oh, this is the Laura Mercier. Yeah, it is. Yeah, Laura Mercier. It's translucent loose setting powder. I'm just brushing that on. I'm using way too much though. Like, usually I would use way less, but there we go. There was something else that I wanted to talk about, but now I can't remember what it was. But yeah, so I really hope that, like, you know, I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to cover, really. I appreciate that it probably went a bit all over the place. I literally just turned on my camera and just decided to film, kind of on a whim, but so yeah, it's probably a bit all over the place, and I do apologise for that, but yeah, I hope that you've kind of like taken some kind of solace or relatability from the video. Like, you don't have to be diagnosed with something in order to have like a mental health problem. Like, we all go through good times and bad times that can affect us in different ways, and I really hope that you feel comfortable to talk to somebody about what's been going on. Maybe you can like take a leaf out of my book and just talk about how COVID's affected your mental health. It doesn't necessarily have to be like what's been going on in the past like week or whatever. It could be anything. So time for talk day, 4th of February, and you don't actually have to have a conversation like with somebody. I appreciate that, like what I just said, like I'm better at talking to people face to face. Sorry, I got distracted there. Better at talking to people face to face, so I appreciate that some people may not feel comfortable talking about these sensitive, like personal issues on the phone or on a video call with somebody. So you don't have to talk to somebody. You obviously the point is to talk about mental health. So you could, I don't know, write a blog post about it. You could make a video like me, or a voice recording. You don't have to put it out there in the world, but you know, you could make it for yourself. You could write in a journal. You could write like a letter, like write a letter to your future self or something like that. If you're like really creative, you could make a song, or you could I don't know, draw something, like draw how you're feeling, or draw how COVID has affected you, or even paint something along those lines as well. Like there are lots of different ways that you can sort of, you know, express, that's the word that I was looking for, express how you've been thinking and feeling over the past year or so. And I think it is really important that we do this, because like I say, even if you've not been diagnosed with a mental health illness before, I think it is important that you do reflect about the year, and you do reflect on these events that have happened, not just like on a global perspective, but in your own personal thing. Because like I say, like I was talking about how COVID affected my mental health, and actually COVID didn't really affect it that much. Most of the things that happened was just something, I kind of think that they would have happened regardless of whether COVID existed or not. So yeah, I think that it is important because it helps you learn more about yourself, and it helps you like keep track of not just your physical well-being but also your mental well-being, because that is just as important as your physical health. They work, like they are intertwined. Sorry, I'm holding my lip gloss. They are intertwined. Like your mental health can affect your physical health, and your physical health can affect your mental health. So it's really important that you keep an eye on the both. Keep an eye on both to make sure that you're happy and well. So yeah. There we go. What is this? I don't think I've ever used this before. This is, oh yeah, it's this brand that I can't pronounce. It's like Doucce. Like I don't really want to call it douche because I don't think they would call it douche. But it's, I don't know if you can see, it's like D-O-U-C-C-E. Doucce, Doucce, I don't know. Luscious lip stain. And it's in the shade Amber Rose. So yeah. Anyway, I'm quite happy with that actually. So yeah, as I say, I really hope that you found this video helpful, and I really hope that you're doing okay as well. And I really hope that you, you know, reflect on 2020 and how COVID has affected your mental health and your mental well-being. I hope that you've learned something from this video as well, and I really hope that you continue to think about these things that I've talked about, and hopefully you'll join me when I make my next video or my next discussion. I can't promise that this will be like a really regular thing on my channel. I used to upload almost every week, but because of the like place that I'm at the moment, I don't want to overwhelm myself with too much going on. But I will definitely keep it in mind, so if I do come up with another topic of discussion, maybe we could talk about like my illnesses and like how I came to be diagnosed with them, that kind of thing. You know, obviously I will get recording and obviously put on my face. I really hope you enjoyed this video anyway. This is really weird. Like I say, I haven't made a YouTube video in like well over a year, so it feels kind of strange, and it's especially strange to talk about these things because they are things that I've not really spoken to anybody about. So it's, yeah, it's nice to kind of have that avenue. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and let me know if there are any topic suggestions that you want to talk about, that you want me to discuss rather, and yeah, subscribe to my channel. Take care. Bye.